Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance.
In this week's episode, we discuss AI screening for survival rates, discovering a connection between sugar and the microbiome, and investigation into a dangerous epilepsy drug. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 151 for the week of September 5th. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Albert Battistelli.
Before we get started, though, our diagnosis code for this week is W2.1XXA, or struck by object due to collapse of building initial encounter.
Dang.
This is crazy.
Right.
Obviously, not a situation anyone wants to be in.
No, buildings falling down around you, not great.
Yeah, no. And of course, anytime you think about this, you hear about this diagnosis code, you think about every disaster that's ever happened for buildings. And I feel like it's almost like, I don't know how you bill for something like that. It seems kind of crazy to me.
No idea. Yeah. Like, oh, hey, this building fell on you.
Pay us for your medical attention.
Right. Or fell around you even. Like, it could just be like a tiny little piece of debris and you're like a mile away. If it's a giant building that fell, it's just like somehow hits you.
Yeah, it's tough.
Ouch. Yeah.
It's tough.
Initial encounter, too, is my favorite. Like, this is the first time this happened.
First and probably the only time, because I don't know if the survival rate for a collapsed building is very high, unfortunately.
Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting one.
Interesting indeed. Anyways, let's get into the news. First up, we have, are the odds in your favor? According to a Mayo Clinic-led study published in August, an artificial intelligence model that incorporates a deep learning framework may improve predictions of recurrence and survival in colorectal cancer, abbreviated as CRC. According to the CDC, CRC is the fourth most common cancer in men and women and the fourth leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the U.S. Accurate cancer recurrence predictions for CRC patients are critical to improving patient outcomes and survival rates. However, predicting recurrence and survival relies on multiple factors and can be difficult. Researchers built an AI model to predict recurrence-free survival. To train the model, the research team utilized CRC biospecimens participating Australian, Canadian, and U.S. locations in the colon cancer family registry. The model was validated using data from external cohort of locations in the U.S. and Canada not participating in the registry. Overall, the model achieved high predictive performance. According to the press release, the model can identify subsets of patients who may or may not need chemotherapy or other intensive treatments based on their probability of cancer recurrence.
Hey.
Hey.
That's a good thing. If we're able to start predicting it a little bit, you can get ahead of it.
Yeah, I think, this kind of news story tells you that that medical studies, some of them are it sounds very simple. It's like, hey, what's the correlation between drinking juice every day and having cavities? Which is like, it seems like a no-brainer. And then there's stuff like this where it's like, what did he just say? And that's what we're in right now. It's super complicated, and it needs to be complicated because we're talking about cancer. So it's a good thing that they're doing more research on cancer, and hopefully something, some huge breakthrough comes of it. But it also feels like a lot of times that there's so much cancer research that there's always breakthroughs because we don't know that much about it. Right.
It's so true. And hopefully one of those breakthroughs leads to some kind of cure or treatment that can eliminate a lot of it. I don't know. At some point, we will crack the case. It's just being persistent. This kind of stuff is encouraging. The connection between sugar and the microbiome.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, a Western-style high-fat, high-sugar diet can lead to obesity, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes. But how the diet kickstarts unhealthy changes in the body is unknown. A study of mice found that dietary sugar alters the gut microbiome, setting off a chain of events that leads to metabolic disease, prediabetes, and weight gain. After 4 weeks on the diet, the animals showed characteristics of metabolic syndrome, such as weight gain, insulin resistance, and glucose intolerance. And their microbiomes had changed dramatically, with the amount of segmented filamentous bacteria falling sharply and other bacteria increasing in abundance. The findings suggest that diet matters, but an optimal microbiome is equally important for the prevention of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and obesity.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Microbiome sounds like some sort of dimension inside of a Marvel movie.
It does. We're heading into the microbiome.
That's how Ant-Man destroyed Thanos.
Right.
It's through the microbiome.
Right. He went in.
It seems like there's a lot of new groundbreaking research coming out of the gut.
Yeah.
Apparently the gut has a lot of weird bacteria that's good for us, which is cool.
Yep.
Which is why there's all those hipsters who drink kombucha.
Sick.
Which I drank kombucha like 2 days in a row and I felt terrible after. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at. That's my relationship with kombucha. But
that's how I was with those what are they called? It's in your yogurt and stuff. Why can't I think of the word for it? You take it and it's supposed to improve your gut health. Darn it, I can't think of what the word is right now because I don't know.
Probiotics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang,
probiotics.
I took probiotics for like 3 days and then it was awful. I had to stop.
Yeah, I don't know how people do the probiotic thing so much.
Yep.
I feel like it gets me like all weird. Maybe that's how it's supposed to feel. Like I feel like I'm just in another world. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah. I had to leave work. It was bad.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It hit you bad, huh?
It hit me really bad. And it was only like 2 days of taking it.
Oh my God.
I was like, I got to go home.
That's funny. Next up, defining the link between epilepsy and autism. The UK Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, or MHRA, is investigating the safety of prenatal exposure to an anti-seizure drug after a study published in May showed that it roughly triples a child's likelihood of having autism or intellectual disabilities. Among children whose mothers took topiramate to manage their epilepsy during pregnancy, 4.3% were diagnosed with autism and 3.1% were diagnosed with intellectual disabilities by the age of 8. Another anti-seizure drug called valproate is already known to contribute to autism. In 2018, the European Medicines Agency partially banned the use of valproate during pregnancy. The MHRA launched its new review of the drug's availability safety data last month to determine if further regulations are needed. It also plans to invite patient groups, healthcare professionals, nonprofit organizations, and other stakeholders to weigh in on the process, which is expected to conclude in October.
Nice.
A lot of drugs spoken in that story there.
Yes.
And I guess the big takeaway is more testing for drugs, prescription drugs.
Yeah. Well, testing whether or not those drugs that manage epilepsy cause potential autism.
Mm-hmm. That is kind of scary though, that epilepsy, there's some sort of a link there. Now, we don't really know what the link is 100%, so we're not going to sit here and infer, but
right.
Kind of crazy.
It is a little crazy. Well, it's crazy to think of all the drugs that people take to manage certain diseases or certain illnesses and what kinds of effects those could have on pregnancies or any other, I don't know, aspect of your life. It's like the people who were afraid of getting vaccinated because they didn't know what it was going to do if they were pregnant or if their children would come out with like 2 heads or something.
Yeah, interesting. Hopefully, something happens. Maybe there's another ban that comes out. Maybe there's stricter regulations. Maybe both. Who knows? But scary times, man. Especially considering like doctors are the ones who prescribe these because the pharmaceutical company says like, hey, we ran all these studies. They're good to go. It goes back to that whole argument is prescription drugs something that should be a for-profit thing, and that's a huge political conversation, but it is worth mentioning that it does exist, and this goes back to that. So with us going to our next segment,
BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach. All of the latest cybersecurity breaches.
Welcome to Breach Patrol. We talk about the latest breaches all across the world. Albert, what do we got?
Forced back into the Stone Age. Baton Rouge-based General Health System confirmed a healthcare data breach that occurred in June. GHS operates more than 20 clinics and medical facilities in the Baton Rouge area. In late June, the Louisiana hospital had temporarily reverted to recording patient records on paper until it could safely bring its EMR and other patient systems back online. In a notice posted recently on its website, GHS confirmed that it experienced a cyber incident beginning on June 28th. Further investigation revealed that an unauthorized party had accessed certain directories within its network between June 24th and June 29th. GHS is currently undertaking a comprehensive review of the contents of the directories determined to be at risk to assess what sensitive information was contained within them and to whom the information was related.
Whoa. Health system, again, with a data breach. That always happens.
Not
20
good.
clinics is crazy, though. I mean, that's a huge organization that falls
Reverting
to a breach.
back to patient paper records. Imagine having to go back.
I couldn't imagine. I remember in the 90s going to the doctor's office, and behind the front desk was like filing cabinets filled with manila folders of patient records. And it feels like that's what they had to go back to. And they're a huge organization. That is a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
On top of that, doctors' handwriting, good luck. Good luck trying to translate that. You know what I mean? It's like hieroglyphics.
Yep.
But worse. Like hieroglyphics at least have some artistic ability to it. And you can kind of be like, oh yeah, that's a cat. But with doctors, it's like, what?
Yep.
I'm being facetious. But also it is, just goes to show you, Albert, healthcare continues to be one of the most targeted industries for cyber security attacks.
And it will continue to be if it's this easy to hack into them. If it's this easy to get
and it will be
access.
Even if it isn't easy, it still will be, though, because of how sensitive the data is that doctors deal with. So it's just something that always has to be constantly top of mind for every owner of a healthcare facility or clinic or hospital. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
So make it harder, folks. Make it harder.
Make it harder.
There.
Biggest takeaway. Next up, successful hack, no turnover. LastPass, a password manager of 25 million users around the world, disclosed a data breach to its customers. After detecting unusual activity in early August, LastPass discovered that an unauthorized party had stolen portions of source code and some proprietary technical information. The threat actor accessed a single compromised developer account to access the information. Luckily, there's been no evidence that the breach involved access to any customer data or encrypted password vaults. LastPass found no evidence that any customer data was accessed and did not recommend any action by customers to further secure their data at this time. So I always wondered about this because it's a password management software, right? So it's a great business concept and idea. It's like, okay, everybody is supposed to have a different password for all of their different usernames across every service. But how do you manage that when half the time everyone can only keep 3 passwords in their head at a time, right?
Right.
If that has happened to me before. I have an account and I try the 3 most used passwords that I have in my brain that I've been using since I was in high school. Yep. And if that doesn't work, then I have to reset my password, right?
Yep.
So using something like this allows you to have multiple different passwords that are automatically secure, and then it puts it in the username and password is all automatically for you. So that way you don't have to worry about it, which is great. But I've always wondered what happens if one of these guys gets breached.
Right, because then so many passwords are potentially available.
Literally access to every account associated with everyone who uses a password manager, and in this case is 25 million. Now, that's not what happened here, and there's no evidence that the breach involved access to customer data, but it's still whoa, that was a close one.
Right.
Couldn't imagine. That's always been the reason why I don't use a password manager is because of that reason. Because it's all it takes is one breach, and then
there goes all my
hundreds of passwords are. I mean, I guess it's the same. I guess it's the same thing, right? If you use the same password on 100 accounts, it's the same thing as having 100 accounts with different passwords managed by one service breach. It just sounds
accomplishes the same thing.
Yeah, but scary. Good thing nothing happened. It seemed like just
that's true.
Some scary ringing the bells. But I'm glad that they told them. Worse. Yeah, I'm glad that LastPass told them that this happened. So,
better be upfront about it. All right, and finally, insider threat settlement. Humana and Cotiviti reached a proposed settlement in a class action lawsuit over an insider data breach that occurred in 2020. In December 2020, Humana learned that the PHI and PII of more than 62,000 of its members were exposed to unauthorized individuals via a personal Google Drive account. A subcontractor employee allegedly disclosed patient data to unauthorized individuals for unapproved training purposes between October 12th and December 16th, 2020, by posting patient data on a personal Google Drive account. The information involved may have included full or partial social security numbers, subscriber information numbers, member identification numbers, medical record numbers, treatment information, provider names, and images such as x-rays and photographs. The plaintiff accused Humana and Cotiviti of negligence, breach of confidence, breach of implied contract, invasion of privacy, and violation of the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act. Humana and Cotiviti denied all wrongdoing and agreed to a settlement. Settlement members are entitled to file claims for up to $250 for ordinary damages and up to $5,000 for extraordinary damages.
Ooh, that damage was extraordinary.
Right? That's what I'm saying. What's the difference? Like, that was just some ordinary damage. I'm fine. That's like whatever. Someone stole someone stealing your credit card. That just happened.
It wasn't extraordinary damage, but it was damage. That's for sure.
Right.
But here we go, Albert. What am I about to say? What am I about to say, Albert?
I don't know.
I'm about to say
class action lawsuits are all over the place.
Yep.
We talk about them every week.
Yep. Every week we talk about class actions. It's crazy. It's bananas. Like,
it is bananas.
It's getting out of control.
Lots
which tells you. So not only can you get breached and then face a fine because of the breach, now you can face a fine because of the breach. And on top of that, the person's like, you know what? I'm going to sue you because I trusted you with my information and you didn't keep it secure. So you're
double
screwed.
Whammy.
You're screwed. Yeah, it's a double whammy. It's a classic double whammy.
Yep.
Google Drive though. Whoa. I wonder if Google could be held accountable for this. Probably not. I'm sure they have some crazy terms of services in there.
Yeah.
But who knows? Eventually it'll trickle down, I feel like, at this point. And that's it for this week's wrap up of your weekly healthcare news. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Albert Battistelli.
And see you next week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Bandage Podcast produced by eTactics.